Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Deep Cut Dive. I got in the co-captain's chair today, Mr. Chris Alo. Good morning, my friend. How are you
Hey,
today?
how's it doing? Good to see you, Pete. Good to see everybody.
Wednesday morning. Here
That's
we
it.
are to talk a little Whitesnake.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a deep cut dive into the catalog of Whitesnake. So, of course, we're not going to talk about the hit singles, the MTV video songs, the songs they play live all the time, the songs on their classic live albums, the songs on their greatest hits compilation. That I've covered it all, right? So I think so. So
Yeah.
again, for those big time Whitesnake fans, because I see these comments all the time, people saying, "Oh, but I'm a big fan. There is no song that's a deep cut for me." Well, these shows aren't necessarily for you. These are for the people who don't know a lot about a band like Whitesnake, maybe only know those big hits and all that sort of thing. And I've seen, I don't know, Chris, I don't know if you've been watching the comments lately, but I've been seeing a lot of people all of a sudden commenting on it's like, "Oh, but those songs have 1 million views on or plays on Spotify," and you go onto YouTube and it's like, we're not talking about that stuff. The streaming services do not play a part in this because that's all modern day stuff, right? We're talking about because those are accessible to everybody. All right, so we don't take into account how many Spotify plays these songs have and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about traditional radio songs released as singles, yada yada yada. So anyway, so we've each picked 5 songs from the pretty long catalog of Whitesnake, and
Yeah.
I'm going to let
And,
Chris start us off.
to your point, Pete. When I'm re-listening to all the Whitesnake catalog, I actually was thinking last night. I was like, man, and I actually thought in my head, I was like, well, not for your viewers, but for the mainstream viewers. I was like, holy smokes, how is David Coverdale not considered more to be one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Even the songs I didn't like or I wasn't in love with, I was like, Jesus, man, the vocals here are just unbelievable. And again, not for your viewers, of course, but for the mainstream, rock audience, for the Rolling Stone readers of the world. How was Coverdale not like, holy smokes? I mean, unbelievable. Just the
And
more I
to kind
listen,
of exactly, and to kind of play off your point a little bit, for those casual fans, like I said, who only know "Is This Love," "Here I Go
yes,
Again," and
still
maybe
in,
1 or 2 other songs, right? Because there's a million of those people.
yeah,
The majority of this catalog is all deep cuts.
oh yeah,
And so I took and I'm not sure which kind of direction you took here. I specifically said I am not going to pick anything off of Slide It In, the 1987 album, Slip of the Tongue, because to the mainstream and very casual fans, those are probably the only albums that they know. And all that early part of the catalog and all the latter part of the catalog is all deep cuts.
absolutely, yeah.
Maybe, and there might be some folks from the
Failing.
UK who might argue that a little bit, right? Because Whitesnake was obviously, not doing big business here until like probably right before Slide It In, but in the
Right.
UK touring regularly and all that kind of stuff. But I really tried to look for, like non-UK singles or US singles and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, long story short.
Which is tough. I mean, I did pick some from Slide It In because that's my favorite Whitesnake record. But my original number one, actually, I looked it up and I was like, son of a gun, that was a single in the UK, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the stuff is really even go back listening to it. It had been years since I heard some of these records, and some of them were great, and some of them had quite a bit of filler. But overall, though, that was the takeaway that I was like, I mean, I love Coverdale. I love his work with Whitesnake, and especially with Deep Purple. But I was like, wow, yeah, but it just blew my mind that he maybe like Ronnie James Dio, when he's gone, unfortunately, that's when people be like, oh yeah, David Coverdale, he was great.
One of the
But
greats, yeah.
yeah,
He's always been one of my favorites. I mean,
oh for sure,
he has been a top 3 guy for as long as I can remember. And there's
yeah,
just something. I mean, David Coverdale is a rock star. He
rock
always
star,
has been. I mean, he is just that guy. He is like your
yeah,
hard rock singer, the prototype of what a hard rock singer. The long hair, the strut, just everything
twirling the
about him, right?
microphone, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, just
It's like, scoping out all the women in the audience and just
it's
like,
true,
Larry, it's just everything about him. It's just, you could
absolutely.
say what you want about his vocal abilities these days. I mean, obviously he's not the same singer he was,
But he's
but
not a
he's
young man
still,
anymore.
no,
Yep,
but he's like late 60s, but he's still that guy on stage.
Totally.
He has not changed his stage attitude, banter, none of that. It's still the same. You know, he can't quite sing as great as he used to, but he still can do it, and he still looks the part, and he's just got that kind of charisma, right? And that's a rock star.
No doubt about it.
And he's had a lot of great bands over the years.
Yeah.
Killer musicians in and out of the Whitesnake band over the years.
Oh, for sure. In fact, I found this. I was going to say, I got to get you a copy of this, Pete, since we're talking about it. I found this in my collection. This is the Coverdale Page rehearsals from 1993, because Coverdale Page did play live. They played Japan.
Yeah.
And the live recordings, they're okay, but this was the best recording I could find. And it's them just playing in an empty hall, and it's Coverdale and Page doing Slide It In, Rock and Roll, Kashmir, In My Time of Dying. It's really cool stuff. So
I would love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to, that was in my Whitesnake section in the CDs. I was like, oh yeah, I got to give that to Pete. Yeah, that's a what could have been. But all right, my number 5 for Whitesnake deep cuts was Medicine Man from the Love Hunter record. It's just a killer 70s hard rock song. The riff totally reminds me of a Ritchie Blackmore riff. It kind of reminds me a little of Mistreated, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of God of Thunder from Kiss when you're listening to it. And Love Hunter, I think, is one of the better Whitesnake records overall. I love the album cover, and funny story that popped in my head, one of those rock flashbacks. My first time seeing Whitesnake was in '87. Yep, there you go. Opening for Motley Crue. And I don't know how they do it in the rest of the country, but here on the East Coast, you remember, Pete, going way back when, the bootleggers always had bootleg concert shirts where they would put the headlining band on the front, and the opening band would be on the back. And the bootleg people never had any kind of know-how or what they were just looking to sell shirts. They weren't tying in album covers or whatever. So I remember it was the Girls tour for Motley Crue, but it was the '87 Whitesnake tour for Whitesnake, but the bootleggers put on the Love Hunter album cover on the shirt, and a whole bunch of friends of mine bought the bootleg shirt and then wore it the next day to school, and they actually made them turn the shirt inside out, which I just thought it was funny. But that's what I was thinking when I see the Love Hunter album cover.
I own a Love Hunter shirt, and I remember when I first got that. Yeah, I should have wore it today.
Awesome.
But I remember when I first bought it, and this is a shirt I got later on, like 10 years ago or something like that.
Right.
And I remember, like, I bought it, and then I went to go wear it. I think I was going to see Dream Theater or something like that. I don't even remember. And I'm leaving the house, and my wife looks at me and she goes, "You're actually, like, going out in public wearing that shirt?" And I'm like,
funny.
"Yes, I am." I'm like, come on, it's a cool album, but like the snake is coming from her friend.
Right.
I'm like, oh, come on, please, just an album cover.
Funny stuff.
And I saw that tour also, and man, Whitesnake just decimated Motley Crue on that tour.
Absolutely.
It was like, I'm granted I was a big fan anyway, but I was just like, oh, what Motley Crue came on, and I was like, there is no way they're following that, and they did not. Yeah. By any means.
No, for sure. But
all right, so my first choice here, I'm going to go to the Trouble album.
Okay.
Trouble's always calling my name for a song called Nighthawk, Vampire Blues. Let me love you. I mean, I love the vocal on that. I love that. Those killer guitar licks from Moody and Marsden on those early albums are just amazing. You got that guy Dave Doyle, who I don't know him from a hole in the water, though they played with Whitesnake. Just big bashing drums on that. You got just that venomous Coverdale vocal, and a decent album. I think as a full length debut, I think this one's pretty strong. It's got that kind of, I think, Coverdale formed this band, and he kind of took where Come Taste the Band and Stormbringer kind of left off a little bit. It's very similar type of bluesy, funky, hard rock type of stuff. And so I always dug Nighthawk a lot. I thought it's just a great song, good little anthem there.
Yeah, no, it's a killer track. And there was a lot of songs I went back and re-listened to. And my number 4, it seems like an odd pick, but I guess that's the point of this. And the track is a Fool in Love from 2008's Good to Be Bad, which when I went back and re-listened to, I actually didn't even realize that. I guess I liked the album so much, I bought it twice. This is the version that comes with a DVD, and this one is a bonus CD. But Fool in Love, it's a slow, bluesy number, but it's really heavy, which is fiery guitar work. It reminds me of like the earlier bluesy Whitesnake. Kind of reminds me of like even Black Sabbath's Heart Like a Wheel, but like on steroids. Just got that bluesy toe tapping number, and I just kept going back to it. I'm like, all right, this is my number 4.
That's a great deep cut, and I'm a big fan of that album. I remember when that first came out, I was like, yes, Whitesnake is back. And I know he didn't stay in the band for too long, but I thought that Doug Aldridge was a good fit for this band, because he's got that kind of like Sykes sort of style, right, which I think fit really well. Right. And he became, kind of like he did with Dio. He kind of became like Coverdale's right-hand man for a while there. And, Coverdale likes to think of his, what does he call them? The conductor, right? Usually Coverdale picks one guy in the band, usually a guitar player, to be his right hand or musical conductor. And, Doug was that for a while. And then when he left, Reb Beach became that guy. And Reb is now the kind of musical conductor of the whole band. So,
and listen, let's not, you can't overlook the fact, since we're talking Whitesnake, David Coverdale's a good-looking guy. John Sykes was a good-looking guy. I remember seeing Whitesnake many times with Doug Aldridge. The ladies loved him.
Oh, he would play. He's a stud, show, right? He's a stud.
That Indian necklace, the girls went crazy for him.
Yep.
So not only was he great on guitar, but he was eye candy for the ladies.
Yep. So, and now you got Joel Hoekstra and Reb Beach in there. I mean, the whole Whitesnake band, I mean, is just they're like male marvels up there. I mean, all of them, and then and then you got Tommy on drums, who's like 70-something years old or whatever he is, and he's still looks
like 100 years old,
right? Yeah. He looks like he's 40, right? I mean, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
All right, my second choice you've already picked as your number 1, so or your number 5, Medicine Man from Love Hunter. We both targeted that one. I love that Barnstorm and Moody and Marsden dual riff in there. I like John Lord, the subtle keyboard work on there, and I totally hit on what you said. In fact, I put it in my notes. That sounds like a song that could have been on the Burn album.
Totally, yeah.
It totally came from Mark III Deep Purple.
Yeah,
totally. So great song, and I love the Love Hunter album as well. I think it's really there's actually a couple songs I could have picked on here. And then, this morning I was listening to Walking in the Shadow of the Blues. Man, what a great song. I mean, obviously you can't pick that one, but that is such a great song. Still to this day.
Yep. No doubt.
All right, back to you.
All right, number 3. And I mean, I had to make sure that this one wasn't a single. And as far as I know, it wasn't a music video or anything. But it's Youngblood, which is the opening track off Saints and Sinners. It's just a fast-paced rocker. I mean, the vocals just, every time I listen to them, I'm like, man, what an unbelievable vocal delivery from Coverdale. And it, to me, when it really kind of, shows the progression when you're looking at, like, say, Come and Get It, and then Saints and Sinners, and then up to Slide It In, how they keep, getting faster and heavier. And that was the direction they were heading. But it's just a great track.
Yeah. It's amazing to look back on the career of this band and look at albums like Ready and Willing and Come and Get It, Saints and Sinners. I mean, those are really strong. Love Hunter, those are really strong albums leading up to what many people consider might be their best album, which is Slide It In.
Yeah,
all really strong albums, and I think it's a shame, especially here in this country. Like I remember, growing up as a teenager, Whitesnake really wasn't on anybody's radar till right about like Slide It In, and it's a shame because I think like those albums we just mentioned should have been enormous here.
Oh, sure, and to me, I've always Whitesnake was always one of those bands that to me the similarity with the Scorpions, like really, Scorpions blew up with in 83, 80, 84. I mean, all the stuff from the 70s in this country is still completely unknown. And, same thing with Whitesnake. Slide It In, that stuff is really, really not well known. Although it's interesting. I had read, if it's real, it was on Wikipedia, so it's got to be real. But it's Slide It In now has sold 4 million copies in the U.S. And I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that is.
And then they said that the '87 record had only done 8 million. And I was like, wow. I was like, but again, these are old certifications. I'm sure both have sold many more since then. But I was like, wow, that's 4 million for Slide It In was way more than I thought.
Yeah, and I guess that's a cumulative thing, right? Because I know it sold well at the time. I think within like a year or two of it being released,
yeah,
it was platinum, right? But then I think once the '87 album came out and that went gangbusters, I think people started going back and buying the Slide It In album.
100%. That's what it said. It actually said that Slide It In 1988 was selling so well, it went back into the Billboard album charts because so many people were buying it up. And I remember, I'm sure you have them too, Pete. The the back in the '80s, I had the old Whitesnake. They were on tape, and they were from Sunburst Records. They were all, I guess, they were all imports. And then it was Elektra. I think it was Elektra, or no, Geffen.
Geffen, yeah.
That re-released all the old Whitesnake albums in between Whitesnake and Slip of the Tongue. They all got re-released in stores. But yeah, you couldn't find a lot of that stuff for and again, this is not for your audience, because if your audience right now was in 1988, they would know that they can get the import albums.
Yeah.
But for the mainstream people, they didn't even know. I remember seeing Whitesnake headline in '87 and '88, and I was kind of ticked off that they didn't do any pre-Slide It In material. And I remember they were doing Tush from ZZ Top, and I'm like, wait, you guys have all this great backlog? Yeah, where's Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City? Like, where's all the Ready and Willing? Where's all Don't Break My Heart Again? And they didn't do any of that stuff. If I remember right, and I'm just going from memory here, but when Whitesnake reactivated in the 2000s in America, that's when Coverdale was finally doing, in America, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City, and then some of that other, some of the other classic.
The early '80s stuff, yeah. There's a really great live album that came out in I think it was right before or right after the Good to Be Bad album.
Yeah.
And it's got like a ton of early stuff on it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I do remember seeing them a bunch of times, and they did that. So yeah, that's
So I was looking at my CDs here and seeing we got Geffen, Mirage Records, we got Geffen, we got
I remember
EMI. I mean, all over the place.
That I had as a kid, which I still have somewhere.
Sunburst Records. Yep.
Yep.
That's this one right here. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go to the Come and Get It album from 1981, which I like quite a bit. I'm going to go to a song called Child of Babylon.
Okay. That was
good bluesy rocker.
Yeah.
But good hook on that. I think it's it's kind of like an anthemic type of piece. It again reminds me a little bit of Deep Purple as well, but this is the type of like prototypical early Whitesnake stuff that I think works so really well. Coverdale just sounds, man, so confident and so sure of himself on those early records. It's just it's funny when you talk about Whitesnake. I meant to kind of do this at the top of the show. It's like you usually have three camps, right? You have the people who the show is dedicated for, who really only know the big hits, right? You've got the old school fans who only like the bluesy stuff and don't like the more metal Whitesnake, and then you got the ones who came on board with Slide It In '87 and like all the more metallic stuff and just never bothered to investigate the old stuff. So I think for those old school people who love the bluesy Whitesnake, a song like Child of Babylon, that's probably as anthemic and commercial sounding as they want to get, I would think, right? But to me, it's just a really great song, and that's total Coverdale right there. I mean, it's just, this song is all about him. It's great tune.
All right. my next two, Pete, I guess I don't know if I cheated technically, but I picked it. They're deep cuts, but to be honest, it was my favorite deep cut Whitesnake tracks that they never played live. They weren't singles, so
So they're okay.
they're from Slide It In. So my number two was Gambler, which was on the UK version is the opening track. It was not the opening track on the US version, which I have somewhere.
Yeah, it was deep on side 2 on the
Yeah.
US version.
But it is on the reissues, which I found last night when I was going over stuff again. I was like, oh God, I totally forgot. I never bought that 6 CD Whitesnake I'm like, okay, I have to order that 6 CD remastered because I have the 25th anniversary of Slide It In. I have the US one, the UK one. But I just love, that is my all-time favorite Whitesnake record. One of my all-time favorite albums for sure. Gambler, there's a couple different versions. There's the US version, the UK version are a little different. I think that's one of the only tracks, of course, other than I think that's one of the only tracks where the vocals are slightly different. But it's just a great rocker. And yeah, I don't know if they ever played it live. Maybe in the UK or maybe in America.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I don't know. That's a great. You know what? If I was going to pick a deep cut from that album, I would have picked that one.
Right.
I love that song.
Yeah.
I love that kind of haunting Hammond organ
totally.
from Lord, and then those. You got to give credit to Mel Galley, man. Mel Galley made that album. It's a shame that it's the only album that he ever appeared on because I love his stuff with Trapeze and his guitar, where his riffs are so great on that album. And let's be real. It's like the guys who made that album originally was Galley and Moody. All right, that was the UK version, and then Moody left the band. They brought Sykes in. They had him sweeten up some things for the US version. Those riffs are all Mel Galley, because if you're at all familiar with the music of Trapeze, you can hear if you listen to the old Trapeze stuff and you listen to Slide It In, man, that's all Mel right there.
Oh, totally. And to your point, it's one of those things where, like, when I was a kid and I got Slide It In, I got the cassette. Inside was a white label. So you saw John Sykes in the music video. So I thought that was the guitar player. I mean, I didn't know, till later on that, he's actually on the US version, but he's just playing the riffs. But, just going back, it's hard to fathom now that you can learn everything on every band, but back then, and it's not like they were publicizing it in interviews, Circus, or whatever I was reading in 1984.
Yeah, great album. Yeah. That's probably I don't know about you, but I think that album just I hate to always point towards the 87 album, because the 87 album is one of my favorite albums of all time, but I generally think if you're going to hear like Coverdale at the absolute height of his powers, Slide It In has got to be in the running for that discussion, right? I mean, it's got to be. Yeah. Got it.
Just amazing, powerful performance, unbelievable songwriting. It is a shame because I know, was it John Kalodner tried quite a few times to get Sykes and Coverdale back together, and they just egos, of course, it never worked. But yeah, that's definitely my favorite Whitesnake era, even though Sykes is just playing on the US version.
Yeah. Well, as far as getting them back together, Sykes can't even get his own damn solo album out.
This is a lost cause. We're going back years ago, 20 years ago when they were still young. Forget it. Now they're old men set in their ways. Sykes can't even do a solo record.
No.
Less than whatever he's doing.
Yeah. You know what? To go off on a tangent real quick, just because we're talking about it. So I love John Sykes. I've forever been a big fan of his playing. I think he's just absolutely terrific. I, for the life of me, can't understand. He's like sabotaged his own career.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he could have been one of the premier guitar players in the world for the last 30 years. And the guy just can't, what is he doing? I mean, you got a solo record that's been done for like what 5 years, and like he just can't keep. He had the Winery Dogs were supposed to feature him. He couldn't get his crap together. Then it's like and just people have just forgotten about him already. Other than like the hardcore Sykes fans, nobody cares what John Sykes is doing anymore. And you know what? It's all his own fault. He could have been the guy for all these years, and he's just like, what is he doing?
I mean, Carmine Appice has said several times, the Blue Murder reunion never happened just because of John Sykes. And it's like, wow, guys, you were sitting on some money here, but now everybody's so old. I mean, at what point you're like, forget it? And it's interesting because, of course, he's much, in the mainstream eye, a million times more well known. But similarly, another guy that worked with Coverdale, Jimmy Page. I mean, of course, he doesn't need it for the money, but what have either guy been? Page and Sykes. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you could have joined a band to do something to get out there to just to play, just to
to just disappear.
It's mind-boggling.
It's totally mind-boggling.
That somebody would have that much talent and just be sitting home doing whatever.
Yeah, I get being a perfectionist and all that, when it comes to Sykes. When it comes to Page, I don't understand that at all. Because quite frankly, he could have released solo album after solo album. And you know what? The masses are going to buy it. So what are you doing? I mean, I'm sure he doesn't need the money. But it's like, you can't – when are you going to stop and say, you know what? The Zeppelin reunion is not happening. Let me just go do something else. And quite frankly, jamming with the Black Crowes on a tour doesn't count.
And that was how long ago?
It was a long time ago. The Coverdale Page album was a a time ago. We're talking decades here already.
Oh. It's crazy stuff. So hopefully
that could be a whole rant for a different show. Like these guys who just can't get their shit together, right?
Totally. So 100%.
All right, back to Whitesnake, because man, we got off on a tangent there. Let's go to Saints and Sinners. Saints and Sinners title track, man, 1982. Another really grinding bluesy song with some just killer licks. It's the last track on the album, so it's deep enough. It's got a memorable chorus, and man, it's got Ian Pace all over this track from Deep Purple in Whitesnake for a couple of years. So I just love Saints and Sinners. I love this album, and again, another one of those albums that like casual fans probably have never even heard before. And you picked Young Blood, which is a great one. God, man, Bloody Luxury. It's got the original Crying in the Rain and Here I Go Again on it. It's like, this actually, if I were to recommend an older Whitesnake album to someone who really only knows Slide It In, the 87 album, and this is a great one because you can hear two of their popular tracks. Well, one, Here I Go Again, and Crying in the Rain, an early version. You get to hear early versions of those and a host of other really great tracks. So Saints and Sinners, I recommend it.
That's a solid record for sure. All right, my number one pick again, Pete, I guess I was cheating, but it was All or Nothing from Slide It In.
You picked two great cuts from that album, and those, again, fans of the album know those songs, but the casual fans will fall in love with them if they never heard them before. Gambler and All or Nothing, fantastic.
Just a great track. I mean, my original number one was Standing in the Shadows, which every time I listen to it, it's so catchy. It's got such great hooks. I'm like, how is this not a huge hit song? And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, this came out as, I don't know how well it did, but it was a single in the UK. So I was like, okay, that's out. But All or Nothing was my second favorite choice off Slide It In, which I just think is just a masterpiece. Spit It Out probably would have been in there somewhere.
Spit It Out is great.
If I had some more room. But yeah, just totally underrated. Just a unbelievable vocal performance from David Coverdale. Slide It In, just one of my all-time favorite records.
And I will say, talking about Sykes, so All or Nothing, because I've actually listened to both US and UK versions side by side. And I grew up with the US version, so I'm partial to that one, obviously. But I think that specifically, All or Nothing totally benefited from having Sykes come in there at the last minute and throwing in these little like pinch harmonics and fills and things like that. Because I think that the US version completely smokes the UK version for that song specifically. Yeah, great stuff. Great song. Great song. All right, my final one here today. I'm going to go to the Forevermore album, which
Okay.
I'm a big fan of. I like
It's
this
a
album
solid
quite a bit.
record.
Yeah, and I went with a song called "All Out of Luck." It's kind of towards the beginning of the
Okay.
album, but and they may have played this on the Forevermore tour if I remember correctly. But again, I think any of these kind of more
Yeah,
recent periods things are they're all deep cuts for the most part.
for sure.
It's a big beefy blues metal rocker. Again, if you love the '87 album or anything that they've done over the last like kind of 30-35 years, got riff-a-rama up the yin yang from Aldrich and Red Beach. It's got some great Brian Tichy drumming on this song.
Who's really a great drummer.
He really is. And as much as I love, Tommy, and I do, part of me almost wishes that Tichy would have stayed in this band a little bit longer. I know that's kind of blasphemy to say, but they're both such great drummers. And you know what? If you can get a Brian Tichy or a Tommy Aldridge in your band, either way, either is good. And I love having Tommy being he's the drummer for Whitesnake. I totally love that. But Brian Tichy is so good too. It's like you're almost like you feel weird kind of saying that because you don't want to say anything against Tommy because he absolutely rules. But Brian is just such a great drummer too. But and this is an album that's full of deep cuts. But that one is good. I like All Out of Luck a lot because I think it's really catchy. I think it's a song that, like, if it was released in the '80s as a single, might have done big business, might have been that kind of concert staple for them. But good track from a very good album. And I will say, I'll just drop it in here right now. I think Forevermore, the title track, is easily a top 10 or 15 Whitesnake song all time.
Yeah,
it's that big kind of Kashmir-ish epic for them, sort of,
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's got some, amazing material, worked with some amazing players when you're looking at the Whitesnake catalog as a whole. And it really is, there's so much of it. Like, well, you kind of forget. And, so many times these bands, it's mind-boggling. Whitesnake, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Ozzy. When you go back, it's like, my God, how are these bands putting out a great record, touring, and then like immediately putting out another great record? I mean, everybody toured. They all toured less back then, but it's just amazing. All these bands cranking out killer records like every year. Whereas now, if you have a band you like, you might get a record like every 5 years.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yep. So in closing, I'm going to put you on the spot. So if you were to take every member of Whitesnake from the when they started till today and pick out your dream lineup, so 2 guitar players, a bass player, keyboard player, and a drummer, and you could choose from all the former and current members of the band, who would you have? So obviously Coverdale's singing, obviously. So what 2 guitar players would you choose?
Gosh, I want to say John Sykes and Mel Galley. On bass, I've just always had for bass and drums, since I'm a huge Sabbath fan as well, always had a soft spot for Cozy Powell and Neil Murray, and of course keyboards. I got to go with John Lord.
So I mean that's pretty spectacular. So Sykes, Galley, Cozy Powell, Murray, and Lord, which essentially is this, sort of the slided in lineup. Yeah, and I would disagree with him much there. Well, Cozy definitely. Well, you got Cozy or Tommy, right? I mean, it's just like, but I love Cozy Powell.
I mean, Ian Pace is great, that's for sure. But if you're picking the dream lineup.
Yeah, the dream lineup. Well, Neil Murray, absolutely. I love Neil Murray's bass playing. I think definitely Neil on bass. Man, guitars. Part of me thinks that it's probably would be wacky, but the thought of like Sykes and Steve Vai playing together, just like,
oh wow, I didn't even think of that.
I know Steve Vai was never a great choice for this band. I love him to death.
Great guitar player, but he was always like, like he doesn't fit in Whitesnake at all. Like I was, amazing guitar player. It's just something about him. He's such a solo guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a Satriani. I can't see Joe Satriani in Whitesnake.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, that's.
I don't know. It's interesting to think. What's that?
That would be an interesting, though. That would be an interesting combo.
I look back because it's like, yeah, Vi is kind of not really the guy to play
Right.
with another guitar. I mean, I remember the tour, the Slip of the Tongue tour, and him and Adrian Vandenberg, another fine guitar player.
I was
And it's
just
like,
gonna
it
say
almost
that.
like Vi doesn't really play nice with the guitar players, and he tends to, because Vi is a showboat, and
Yeah,
I mean, let's talent wise, I mean, not many people can compare to him. So
100%.
I almost felt bad for Adrian on that tour, because it's like, as fine a player as he is, he's no Vi, and it's almost like Vi just kind of like took over
Yeah,
everything, you know.
absolutely.
So
Wow.
yeah,
I almost wondered what you do. Do I want to switch mine to Sykes and Vandenberg? Like,
that
I
might
don't
be
know.
interesting.
That would
Or how
be,
about
yeah.
Sykes and Red Beach, right?
Yeah, that's
Or how
true.
about Bernie Marsden and Sykes? I mean, there's like all these I mean, because look at all of them. You got Marsden, Moody, Galley, Sykes, Vandenberg, Vivian Campbell.
Yeah, that's true. 100%.
Warren DeMartini played for them a tour
Yes.
briefly,
I
right?
had that. I have a bootleg DVD of them from Russia at some like fair. And when people are always like, "Yeah, no, Warren DeMartini wasn't a Whitesnake," I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, he
he was.
was
He
briefly.
did a
Yeah,
summer vacation with them."
yeah, yeah. And I think he's a good fit. I think he would have been a
Yeah,
really, really good fit. So, DeMartini, who else? So we got Doug Aldridge, Reb Beach, Joel Hoekstra. I think that basically covers
yeah.
everybody. So that's quite an assembly of guitar players.
Talented guitar players, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Jeez, a lot of good drummers, a lot of good everything. So really good
Oh,
band.
sure. I mean, Coverdale's he's like an Iommi, just a guy that just surrounded himself with great players.
Yep,
And again, there was all those rumors of those two guys working together.
I know.
Which, it's
Yeah.
a shame that never happened, but that's a whole nother video.
I know. And quite frankly, Coverdale learned a lot from his mentor, Richie Blackmore, about how to keep the revolving door going, right?
True. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, there you have a deep cut dive into the catalog of Whitesnake. As always, a great, fun discussion with Chris Alo. Thanks for being back on the show again. Chris and
Thanks for
I
having me.
will be doing it again in the near future, so look for him. And this is on the web at www.seeitranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. So programming coming up tomorrow. Geez, what are we doing tomorrow? Deep Cut Dive tomorrow morning will be me solo doing the Doors. That's what you got tomorrow. Friday, we got Pink Floyd. Tonight, we've got John Payne and Eric Norlander from Dukes of the Orient, also Asia featuring John Payne. They're coming on the show tonight to plug their new album. Tomorrow, we got Alex Skolnick from Testament and TSO and all sorts of other things coming on tomorrow night. And, we're always busy here on Sea of Tranquility. So stay tuned for all that. And for Chris Alo, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.